Clickers are terrifying. I think we can all agree on that one. In fact, the creator of The Last of Us almost started crying when he saw HBO's version. And it wasn't because he was scared, but because his vision finally came to life. When Neil Druckmann, the co-creator of HBO's The Last of Us, first saw the clickers come to life, he was overwhelmed with emotion. On that day, 2 stunt actors were wearing full clicker prosthetics and ready to take notes of any feedback Druckmann might have had. Little did he know he would have nothing bad to say. One of them was a fan of the game, and he'd perfected the sounds clickers make. The experience of seeing it in real life was surreal to Druckmann, and he found himself on the brink of tears. This was the first time he was seeing something he created in real life. It wasn't just on a 2D monitor, he was standing in it, or looking right at it. And what made it even more impressive was how accurately they portrayed the clickers, especially since clickers are different from other infected. The cordyceps fungal infection first seen is the reason why everyone turned into zombies in the first place. This virus infection starts off with runners, who make up the initial stage of the cordyceps infection. Typically, those infected will stay as runners for 2 days to 2 weeks before progressing to other stages of evolution. Runners are the more common zombies you'll find in the show and the game. They look mostly human, but without hair, have bad eyesight, and develop lesions all over their body. After about a year, these infected evolve into clickers, an entirely new form that has been overtaken by fungal growths. The clicking sounds they make while moving around are the reason why they were named clickers. So why do they click? Well, unlike runners, clickers don't have bad eyesight, they're blind. So they use echolocation to move around. Even though they have no sight, clickers are far more dangerous and pose an even greater challenge to survivors in The Last of Us. You could say that they're the perfect threat, which is why getting them right was important. In the game, clickers were a force to be reckoned with, while runners were the most common enemy. Clickers were the ones that were really difficult to deal with because of their high level of aggression and damage. To get by them, stealth was essential. Any sound caused them to attack immediately. In The Last of Us, clickers are much more powerful than runners, making them a huge obstacle for players. Unlike regular runners, you couldn't actually kill clickers with unarmed melee combat in The Last of Us. Instead, the best way to deal with them was through ranged weaponry or crafted items like shivs. But clickers were incredibly powerful and resilient, so much so that they could take multiple gunshots and still keep coming. In The Last of Us Episode 2, we saw firsthand just how deadly these creatures could be. Not only were they able to disarm Joel and even pin him and Ellie to the ground, even though they'd been shot multiple times before. It was crucial for HBO's adaptation of the series to get them right, and thankfully, it did just that. Not only did the episode feature clickers that looked faithful to their game counterpart, but their movements and attack patterns were also faithful to the original game. This was because of the hard work of co-creator Mason and the production team, who made sure that the clickers were as true to their game form as possible. Fans of The Last of Us will now be able to watch the HBO series with peace of mind, knowing that any other infected types will also be brought to life beautifully. At this point, you might be wondering what the big deal is, because it's not like there have never been zombies in shows in the past. You see, these guys are a click above the rest. Pun definitely intended. How? Well, they've got armor. The main difference between clickers and runners in both the HBO show The Last of Us and the game is their strength. This was shown in Episode 2 when Joel encountered a clicker for the first time. Despite being shot multiple times, it had enough physical power to disarm him. Even after taking 4 shots to the head, this initial clicker still didn't die. It just slowed down a little. This strength is a key factor that sets clickers apart from runners, making them more dangerous in terms of both physical power and sustaining damage. The second clicker was also crazy strong and survived an axe attack from Tess before continuing to search for the trio. Later, it was shot twice in the head by Joel, and only then did it finally die. On the other hand, you can easily kill runners with one hit on the head, and what makes the clicker's strength even scarier is the fact that all infected become clickers at one point. Well, at least they're supposed to. But not all human hosts hosts actually live through the infection. After several weeks as runners, they become stalkers, which are much stealthier and harder to detect than runners. If the host survives an entire year after being infected, it turns into a clicker, which is one of the most dangerous forms of the infection. It's entirely dependent on how long the human host lives after becoming infected by cordyceps as to whether or not they will become a clicker. In The Last of Us Episode 1, Joel and Tessa find a dead host on the wall in a subway, indicating that not all hosts survive the infection caused by cordyceps. If a host is killed within its first year of infection, their body will begin to decay and the virus will start to spread. It's fortunate most of them die before reaching the clicker stage because those are the worst stages, right? Clickers aren't the final stage of the infected. Yep, there's another one. And boy, if you thought clickers were bad, you're not even ready to hear about bloaters. Bloaters are the rarest and most deadly of those infected by the cordyceps virus, and they're no joke. Not only can they take years to develop, but their thick armor-like fungus makes them almost impenetrable to bullets and other smaller weapons. This armor not only protects them from damage, but gives them a level of strength well beyond that of your average infected. The Last of Us Episode 5's bloaters are a tough enemy to beat, far more powerful than the regular clickers. A single one of these is enough to cause mass destruction and create a serious threat. Taking down a bloater will require intense firepower, and even then, it probably won't be easy. The Last of Us Infected is different from the zombies from other shows. The Last of Us and The Walking Dead are both popular television shows in the zombie apocalypse genre, and it's inevitable that viewers will compare the two. On the surface, they share a deep connection to exploring people's lives in this post-apocalyptic world, with great action scenes interweaved with character development. But there are fundamental differences between The Last of Us and The Walking Dead that set them apart. The Last of Us doesn't consider their zombies dead, but rather infected. The cordyceps virus, which spreads through the air as spores or contact with infected creatures, has mutated humans into monsters of varying strength and speed. It's also created a range of other creatures, from bloaters to clickers, that are unique to this world. The HBO series The Last of Us takes inspiration from AMC's popular show The Walking Dead. Both share an emotional core and the same apocalyptic themes. But The Last of Us is more accurately akin to the zombie movie World War Z. The 2013 blockbuster brought fast and smart zombies, which is similar to the evolution of the cordyceps virus infection seen in The Last of Us. Who wouldn't be emotional seeing all that come to life? See you in the next video.